Hey, welcome back to the channel, everybody. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Dick Pritchett Real Estate for having these cams for us to watch. I also want to give out the shout out to all the people who have been watching my videos and people who have subscribed. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. First off, the e-bike season's coming. We're right there, getting there. Spring's almost here. All the bike companies will be having good sales for spring, so anybody interested in an e-bike or even a regular bike, spring's coming, sales will be here. Alright, so let's start off with the Southwest Florida Eagle Cam, and we're going to start off with 3.5. This is Sunday. When I get up, it's very, very foggy at 6 a.m. I can't really see the attic tree at all. Now, he's up there, you know he is. Right, so M15, his first return is at 8:03 a.m. with a fish. 21 gets most of that fish, 22 gets a little. M15 returns at 9:59 a.m. with a fish. He feeds 21 and 22 self-feeds on the rest of it. M15 returns again at 10:43 with another fish. This time 22 just self-feeds. 21 is already full from the past two fish and he's not really interested. M15 drops down in the nest and starts working on some of the leftovers and eats on some of the fish from earlier. All in all, they have a good morning feed, both of them. I'd call it a very good morning. So then M15 returns again at 3:13 with another fish. Looked like it'd been partially eaten. 21 gets most of that. 22 gets a little. R23-3 flies into the nest tree by M15 at 3:55, and both leave around 4 o'clock p.m. M15 returned back to the nest at 4:52 p.m. with a fish. 22 eats, and 21 also eats. Then I see M15 at the pond at 6:30 drinking water, and he hits the attic perch about 6:37 p.m. Then you see an intruder, because I'm going to call it an intruder because we can't identify the bird. When they fly up over the nest cam, you can't really tell where they are. But it was about 6:53, she flew in. He ended up chasing her off though, so I don't know whether, I doubt that was R23-3, it was probably another bird. So Monday morning at 6 a.m., M15's in the attic, and I don't see any R23-3 or any intruder up there with him. M15 returns at 8:30, looked like with a squirrel. 22 mantled and snagged it first, but 21 gets it, eats most of it. Then a new intruder flies into the nest tree about 9:18, and it flies around the nest tree area for a while, but it ends up leaving in about 5 minutes from the time it showed up. It was just curiosity. It was all she was. So M15 returns at 10:53 with a fish. He feeds 22 and 21. It's a good sized fish. Both of them get a good feed. And then he returns again at 4:12 with a fish. 21 eats and 22 doesn't get anything. I see M15 at the pond about 6:44 drinking, and he hits the attic perch about 6:50 p.m. There was an intruder in the nest tree most of the late afternoon, early evening. But I saw her fly off about 6:56 p.m. So she was gone. Alright, so that brings us to Tuesday, 3/7. There was some excitement on Tuesday. E21 got pooped on by an intruder. It was kind of nasty, and pooped on his head and his fish he was eating. Didn't stop him from eating the fish though, he just kept on eating. So I get up, M15's in the attic, and I can see that R23-3 are an intruders in the nest tree. M15 returns about 10:12 with looked like just scrap meat to me. 21 eats, it wasn't much. Then he returns back at 10:40 with a fish. 21 eats and 22 gets some. Then he returns again at 12:17 p.m. with an opossum. 21 and 22 both pick at that carcass. 22 eats some of it. But they really didn't make much headway on it. Then M15 returns at 3:15 with a fish. 21 eats on the fish, and then M15 is up in the tree, but he drops down into the nest about 3:49 p.m. and he starts feeding the leftover opossum to 21 and 22, and then 22 steals it from him, and M15 starts feeding the leftover fish to 21, and then 22 steals the fish and eats the fish. Rest of the fish. M15 starts scrapping the opossum carcass, and of course 21 is full pretty much. So after 22 finishes the fish, he goes over and starts eating the leftover opossum carcass with Dad. And Dad pretty much so cleaned that opossum carcass up pretty good. Got pretty much of it all cleaned up. He left the nest about 4:28, went down to the pond and was drinking. And then he returns to the nest tree about 4:40 and has a vocal spat with an intruder in the nest tree. It doesn't really do nothing. She doesn't fly off. So about 5:19 p.m. I see a bird land up in the nest tree. I'm not sure whether it's M15 or R23-3 because it's over the nest cam. But then you see M15 return to the nest tree about 6:38 p.m. He flies off, and he must have something must have caught his eye because he comes back at 6:05 with a pretty good sized UFO, and he feeds 22. Most of that, and 22 gets a little, and then he's back up in the attic perch at 6:53 p.m. Then comes to Wednesday, 3/8, 6 a.m. It's very foggy again. I could not even see the nest tree. You know he's up there though. He always is. So at about 7:25 a.m. I see what's either R23-3 or an intruder up in the nest tree above the nest cam. M15 returns at 9:46 a.m. with a UFO. 21 gets most of that. 22 got a little. Then 22 or M15 returns again at 3:58 p.m. with a partial fish. 21 eats all of it. 22 didn't get nothing. It was kind of a sad day. Not much food that day. Then M15's down at the pond drinking about 6:20, and he was in the nest tree at 6:27. And he was in the attic perch at 6:39. I did not see any intruder or R23-3 with him. Okay, then there is an intruder or R23-3 lands in the nest tree about 6:57 p.m. M15 gets really loud and the intruder leaves pretty quick. So I don't think that was R23-3. And then of course 11:12 p.m. unfortunately M15 gets struck by an owl. That's something that's just going to continue to happen as long as that owl's nest is only about 900 feet away. They're going to keep getting hit by these owls occasionally, unfortunately. Alright, so that brings us to Thursday. I see M15 fly off the nest at 6:23 a.m. He returns at 10:42 with a fish. 21 steals the fish from 22, and 21 eats most of it. 22 does get a few bites. Then M15 returns at 12:47 with a fish. 22 mantles over that fish and gets some of it. 21 eventually steals it, and there's kind of a tug of war over it. 21 eats some, but 22 steals it back, and he ends up getting most of that fish. Then at 4:11 p.m., unfortunately, I see M15 flying in to the nest with what looks like he has a food item in his talons, and an intruder's behind him, and she attacks him and forces him to the ground and steals his fish. This was unfortunate because he could have got hurt. He was coming in and he was coming up on that uplift to go in the nest, and she grabbed him from behind and just drug him right down towards the ground. So she gets the prey item. He flies off to one of the trees over by the church. He eventually flies down to the pond and is drinking water. And of course they show her, or the intruder, about 4:35. That's how we know that it was a theft of food, because we see her eating the food under the tree. Right. So CM15 come in about 6:24. He flies into the nest tree by the intruder, and then he drops down to the attic perch about 6:45. She stayed up in the perch above the camera. So Friday, 3:10 at 6 a.m., I see M15 in the attic, and I see either an intruder or R23-3 is in the nest tree over the camera. M15 returns about 10:09 with a fish. 22 initially mantles and gets the fish and eats a few bites, but 21 steals the fish and eats most of it. 22 does get a few leftovers, but not much. Then M15 returns at 10:56 with a fish. 22 mantles and is able to get that fish and eats all of it, and has a good feed. Then M15 returns at 1:15 with a fish. 22 gets a few bites, but 21 steals it and eats most of it. 22 gets leftovers again. Then M15 returns at 1:59 with a fish carcass. 22 gets most of it and eats. 21 gets some, but 22 steals it back and eats the rest. Then an intruder flies into the nest tree over the camera about 6 o'clock. And then M15's down at the pond drinking at 6:20. And he's in the nest tree at 6:29 and in the attic perch at 6:40. There was a little bit of excitement. About 6:10 p.m., that intruder dropped down and snagged like a fishtail, but that was about it. It was just a fishtail. Wasn't really much there. All right, well, Saturday's kind of a bad day. So It's not going to take very long to do Saturday. M15 is in the attic perch. I don't see any intruders. I do see an intruder fly into the nest tree, or it could have been M15 about 8:23. That bird flies off, whoever it was, about 8:37. M15 returned to the nest about 3:40 p.m. Or wait, he returned about 12:34 p.m. with a very small UFO, a small bite that 21 got. And then about 3:40, M15 or the intruder flies into the nest tree over the camera. I couldn't tell who it was. They were over the camera until about 4:27 p.m. when they flew off. There was no other food items brought to the nest all day, other than that one little bit of food. I see M15 in the attic perch at 6:40 p.m. and that's pretty much it for the night. So, not a very good Saturday. Nobody really got anything to eat, and there were some days prior to that were not very good food days. These birds are getting too big to not have food. They got to have food every day. So, hey, that completes our review of the week. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Like I said, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching the videos, everybody who's subscribed. Thanks a lot. I hope we're still on track here. M15 may be getting a little bit distracted by these females. Quite often I see him at the pond drinking with these gals. And let's just hope he's not getting distracted by all this intruder and females. There's still a lot of time left for him to mate with another female this season and abandon these kids. Let's hope that doesn't happen. I sure hope it doesn't. I'm looking at one day where there were no food, and I kind of get worried about that, especially as big as these two are now. We're so close to them being able to fly away. We're just 2 or 3 weeks away from them being able to fly. So let's hope that happens. So, anybody looking forward to getting an e-bike, like I said at the beginning of the video, the sales are starting. I did purchase a new e-bike. Hopefully it'll be here in the next week and a half or so. Not going to let y'all know what it is. We'll do a short video of it when I get it. But thanks a lot for coming on the ride with me. And if you enjoyed this video, like I said, hit the like, hit the subscribe, leave me a comment, and we'll see you on the next ride. Y'all have a good one. Oh, okay, one more thing. Saturday morning, early at 3:04 a.m., M15 gets struck by an owl again. Unbelievable. Y'all have a good one.